happiness over there, having over there their mosque and faith, having just fund to take care of those and to take care just the allegation is that sometimes may not know those who are innocent people who are having the business over there. They may not know the trash that they just our opponent are talking about, and we already knew that there is some trash can that's supposed to trash in everything bad. And let me say about the traffic. Maybe the traffic is over there sometimes, especially the weekends. The weekend, everybody's just resting from his work, and also just there's a lot of customers over there, and who are shopping in the mall. Maybe when sometimes, very rare times, get stuck for the entrance of the parking lot, it might be traffic jam. Traffic problems, and it can be solved. That I think, and I hope you just don't want to harm both of side, the business community over there and also the neighborhood. So we request you to do better thing, both of us, and we expect for you that to make some good thing, both of us. Just what I'm saying is that, and thank you. And even if you have we can say one more thing. We just very busy over here right now. If we can have a lot of numbers, who and we can have also a lot of positive things that we can prove the better thing that we just having over there, and fun. And I'm sorry today that I cannot show any picture for the betterness of our side, of culturally and faithfully. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, and please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Abdullahi Gedi. I'm one of the shop owners in Village Market. The first thing that I will say, the loading zone, it will be easing the traffic, because I know what we go through right now when we're getting merchant deliveries, because the UPS, they park it on the street, and then the guy deliveries have a problem because, there's some people honking for him, he's rushing. So all this causes trouble for the street. So if we have a loading zone, I think those are going to be easy, because whoever have a merchant coming tomorrow, this is what we are doing right now. They can report it to the management in the next day we have in delivery, so time, then the security will be responding to that time. So there's not going to be waiting time, because they will be, the security will be ready, everything is be, the plan will be in place. So that way it helps to ease the traffic. That's number one. The other thing is the ports. We used to have two railing, it's the metal ones. In safety-wise, this wood is good for going in and out, go up and down. The railing, the metal one used to have a little bit, when the snowing, all this, people slips or it's gonna have a problem, the oldest. But this is a little bit steady, and you can go in and out easy. But according to the congregation, the people back then outside, that's something that security will take care. But I think it would be, it's a good thing that to know right now, as a shop owners and the management, we can take a step and to eliminate those kind of problems. Other thing is for the trash. I think I can invite you in 7 in the morning. You can come and take a look. All the bins. By 7 in the morning, all the bins are empty. All the trash will take out. There's no bin that have a full trash. So, I am just supporting for this project if it's possible, so you can approve it. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And commissioners, are there any further questions, or would someone like to start us off with a motion? Commissioner Lupke here.
I had a question for staff. Hillary, so just refresh my memory here. So let's say that this gets approved with all the site plan conditions and whatnot. What is the consequence if all of the conditions aren't met, especially ones that are contingent upon continual effort? For example, emptying trash cans daily or having customer parking in the loading parking. I mean, is there a consequence? What is the consequence?
I mean, if this was a conditional use permit, we could revoke a conditional use, but we don't have that permit application before us because this is a non-conforming use because of the zoning. I can't think of other.
So we could put conditions on here, and if they choose not to do them, it doesn't have any effect on their permit or anything.
I mean, they would, upon inspection of the site for compliance, if they were out of compliance with those conditions, we would then be able to fine them.
Mm-hmm.
But the conditions have to be related to the items before
Mm-hmm.
you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Commissioner Slack.
Well, I guess this is more conversational than an actual motion, but I guess I'm at the point where I cannot or do not want to make a motion or actually vote on this. So either I would like to see this continued so that we have some additional information, whether they're architectural drawings or some input from Public Works, or even revisiting the TDMP so that we have a better understanding of what things have happened or what have happened. Or if we were to move forward with a motion supporting staff recommendations, I feel like I'm going to make a lot of conditions, which subsequently would then mean that maybe the project isn't built and subsequently none of the conditions are followed through, or I would personally make a motion to deny. I guess I go back to the last time we heard this project, and there's a consistency in the testimony that we're getting from the public. And I do appreciate everybody coming out and talking and speaking to the project, both from the neighborhood side and from the business owner side. I think it's very important for us to hear that. But what I talked about last time was that there are bigger issues here than this land use and how it relates to the neighborhood. And if we do nothing on this project or nothing gets built, nothing will change and nothing will get better. And so I think we need to have a conversation about what we can do to make the situation better. And the situation is the loitering, the parking, the traffic, even making the business users and the business owners within the building, having them have a positive situation. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm looking at this, I want to look at this half glass full. I want to be positive about this. But if we deny it or if we approve it with some conditions, I just feel like nothing is going to change. And so I'm guessing I'm putting that back on the city to do a small area plan or to do a planning study that just looks at this neighborhood and tries to figure out what we can do better, because they're going to keep coming back and we're going to keep hearing development proposals and we're going to have these same conversations. And I just want to try and figure out a way for the businesses to be able to be there and for the residents to have, the aspects of livability that they deserve.
Commissioner Lupke here.
Yeah, I actually concur. I think this item needs to be continued, mainly because I don't see how it would be possible to approve it right now without having drawings that actually reflect what's being proposed. I don't see a drawing that shows a connected walkway. I don't see a drawing that addresses what the actual occupancy and use of that space will be, and whether or not, if that changes, if it has to be sprinkled or not, that changes what we're approving anyway. So I feel as though I can't approve something I haven't been able to see and evaluate to see if it's appropriate. There seems like a lot of conditions that if they with their architect find that these are all in keeping with what they intend to do, I'd like to see that reflected in a drawing that isn't as conceptual as just a site plan with a dashed outline saying here's what we're talking. It's one thing to have staff, sketch up on the overhead what it is that they're proposing in the conditions, but I feel as though a lot of this really could be affected by feet, if not changing the course of the design altogether based on what is allowed by building code, and that's not my job to do at this project. I think they need to work with their architect, and I'd like to see a more detailed site plan. I'd like to see them actually have plans that we can respond to that actually reflect the reality of what could be constructed, because I don't think we have enough information here to actually approve it, because we don't have what they're actually proposing to do that would meet code. And I do have concerns about what that porch space really is. I mean, to me, it looks like a space for gathering or dining or sitting or entertaining. It doesn't look like a loading dock to me. So I just want to see that clearly outlined in drawings identifying the occupancy and use of that space and how it's classified before I can rule on it.
All right. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I honestly don't understand why this is in front of us with such an incomplete application that we've now spent an hour of folks' time and our time once again on this project. And I think another observation I would make is this is now the third time we've had an expansion for non-conforming use in front of the Planning Commission since I've begun serving here. And each time I think we're starting to conflate a lot of issues about improving traffic flow and the parking lot configuration and all of those things that aren't relevant to the application for expansion of non-conforming use. And so it's almost presented as if we approve this expansion, then these other improvements will be made to address the concerns of the community. And it puts us in a difficult position then, because I think as my colleagues have stated, the issues here that the community keeps coming to talk to us about aren't things that we can really solve through land use applications. There's issues with the circulation, and frankly, like I've said every time, there's this underlying issue that we have a very high intensity use, a shopping mall basically in an industrial zone that's very close to residential, and it's just creating a lot of conflicts that I think probably needs some very creative problem solving and willingness for the property owner to really sit down with the community and figure this out. But we keep having these kind of small, relatively small expansion requests that bring up a giant amount of issues that the Planning Commission can't really address. But speaking to this very specific issue, again, as folks have said, it's not clear what the intention of the use of this is. It's hard for us to vote on something that doesn't have a drawing, that instead has a picture of a house-built structure that wasn't supposed to be built in the first place. So again, it just puts us in a bad position. And I apologize to everyone who came again and spent an hour. If we then continue it, to have to feel like you'll have to come back again. And so I just want to acknowledge that is a little bit of the downside of continuing this item to another time when then folks would have to come back for another hearing. So I don't know.
Thank you. Commissioner Magrino.
Pretty similar comment. I agree that it's hard to look at this without seeing, in detail what this is supposed to look like. But, I almost wonder what the point of continuing it is, because it really, the underlying thing is that, yes, there's a mall in the middle of the neighborhood, and I don't know that that's something that we're going to be able to figure out. I think we've looked at a number of these types of applications, and we've denied expansions for Village Market specifically a couple times. The other mall over near the Greenway, we've approved some expansions because that is a different location, and the infrastructure in that area can, I think, handle that a little bit better. But this really is just in the middle of the neighborhood, and I think, hear complaints about parking and traffic all the time, and people will, it'll be like a residential use somewhere along a main street, and it's really not generating a lot of traffic. But this is a regional destination retail where people are coming in, every couple minutes or whatever the case is, and it's really grown, and it's become, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure that there's a way that we really can even deal with this, and so I'm wary of continuing it because I don't see how what's the point of continuing it? I guess.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else, or would someone like to make a motion? It seems that there is some interest in continuing this. If the commission was interested in continuing, I would suggest we continue it 2 cycles and allow the applicant the opportunity to provide that supplemental information we are requesting. I would entertain a motion to that effect, or if someone would like to make an alternate motion, that would be fine too. I cannot make the motion myself.
I will
Commissioner
make a
Kronz.
motion for conversation. I'll make a motion to continue this issue 2 cycles.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue the application 2 cycles. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe it'd be helpful to hear from staff at this point if we are considering it 2 cycles, if we expect, or perhaps the applicant, if we expect to have more information that would allow us to vote, filling in the gaps that people have identified. So I, for one, don't know that I can explain what this structure is. So I've heard that it's supposed to be a loading dock. I've also heard that it's a covered walkway, but I don't know of other examples of covered walkways in our city. And I also share some of the concerns that were raised earlier about combining a pedestrian space with a loading zone. And I literally don't understand why anyone would want to do that, or if there's an example of that in other places. I guess I can think of places like in Portland, where there's a lot of older industrial buildings that have been converted that have these sort of like porch-like things. So maybe the intention is for it to be kind of more like a gathering space, but that isn't really what we heard from staff or the applicant. So we're being asked to vote on something that I don't know that we've even really identified what it is meant to be.
All right. And Taylor Reed, did you have something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way it's been explained to me is that it's a porch. It's, I mean, I guess you would think of a covered porch in a residential house, but that's what it looks like. So we went with the definition of this being a covered porch. The access is on the north end. There's a railing and a roof. And I'm going to get pictures out of the packets to show this area where this covered walkway is. It's between the buildings. So going back to the site plan. So this is the grocery store building. That was the retail outlet for the original bakery when this was the bakery, the Metz Bakery site. The larger building then that occupies most of the site is sitting up here. That covered walkway, there's a walkway now that runs between the two buildings. I'll find a picture. This is that walkway that runs between the two buildings. So this is the grocery store, the standalone. Well, they're both standalone buildings, but you know what I mean, the smaller one. And then the larger building that's had many additions. Where these two staircases are and these blue awnings, that's what's been removed, and that's where the porch is now. This walkway, and this is kind of where that ADA ramp, if you will, this railing right here, this blue one, sorry, it's kind of this blue railing, which is off the page, sits right up here. So then this is that space. If you turn around in that corridor between the two buildings, if you turned and went north, you'd run into this door. This is that ADA ramp that's coming down now on the north side. This is the grocery store building, the little one in the corner. So what he wants to do is extend the roof, as far as I understand, extend the roof out so it covers this walkway, and then put an awning or a covered roof similar to the porch through this whole space. So this then becomes a covered walkway. If that's making sense. So that walkway in elevation, and this is the drawings, Commissioner Lipke here, and that came from the architect. So I will go back, and if this is continued, I will go back and ask for better drawings from the architect. This hatched line represents the roof structure that covers the walkways. The porch comes to about right here, and then you come down those stairs, and it's the covered walkway then that is constructed over those sidewalks. So there's continuous coverage from the public sidewalk here to those doors and business entrances on that side of the building.
And commissioners, if I may, if there is concern about what kind of activity may or may not happen in that space and how it's used, as was kind of alluded to earlier, if you wanted to include a condition of approval, if you were so inclined to approve it, that there be no retail sales or display in that area, that would certainly be within your authority, and it sounds like that would be consistent with the applicant's intent anyway.
I do know that that entrance, that those are fire code related or needed entrances into that building. So that would also be a fire code violation to have product or people or tables sitting out on that porch.
Commissioner Vreeland, do you have a question or comment?
So I'm looking at the picture of the pretty porch that existed there, and it just seems like a real design problem of, I mean, what I'm looking at, I'm staring at a loading dock. I mean, that's the center of this picture. I don't know if you have that picture to put up or not, but and to have that be this, become a new center of pedestrian activity and gathering. I mean, there's something very odd about this design of making a loading dock worse to solve a problem.
It was never, I before tonight in the testimony that came from the applicant's attorney, I had never heard that this was also going to serve, that the railings were going to come off and be a loading dock. So that was news to me tonight. The drawings don't reflect that. They reflect a continuous railing, if you will, or yes, porch railing. So I would want to go back to the architect and the owner and have them explain to me, and truly reflect in their written information what this is. If to me this was a porch and an exit.
So again, I'm looking at the loading dock. I've unfortunately loaded a lot of trucks in my life, and it's like if the problem is getting product into the building, none of this other stuff. I mean,
I don't think the problem is getting product into the building. I think the problem with loading and unloading is that it's occurring in the bike lanes or in the streets or in the middle of the roads. I think that's the problem with loading. It's not getting it in and out. People, they've been driving into this corner parking lot and opening the hatchback of their car and pulling things out and wheeling it into the building and coming out and getting the second load. It's not that activity. It's the activity of all these cars sitting in the middle of the streets. That's what we need to solve. I don't know how to solve that. I would love it if you guys could explain to us how we solve that issue, because I can't do it. This application can't do it. And if you guys can, then please tell me, tell us, tell CPAD how to solve this problem, because we can't do it.
All right, Commissioner Lukey-Peer. Oh, Amy, the Commissioner Sweezy.
Thank you. Is it appropriate to make another motion that's maybe in conflict with the one that's
well, unless it was supplemental, we should probably vote on the original motion.
Okay, well then maybe I'll just comment first. So
yeah. Yes, Commissioner Vreeland.
We have a parliamentarian here, but a substitute motion or an amendment is always in order.
Well, I can just tell you what I was thinking, and we can go from there. I would be voting to deny a motion to continue it, and I would support a motion or make one to deny the application. I agree with much of what Commissioner Magrino said about I feel like we're unraveling the sweater here, and the longer we talk, the more that comes out of it. And I think that we can't solve the problems with these applications, and I think the deficiencies in it and what is needed requires more work and more thought than just kind of kicking it down the road a couple months. So we can vote on it, or I can make a replacement motion, or it'll be my intent to vote against this one and for a motion to deny, but I thought I'd just put that out there.
Okay, so it's my understanding that it is acceptable to make that alternate motion. Is there a second?
I would second that substitute motion.
All right. Commissioner Cron.
I have a question for staff. In the meantime, though, I will withdraw my original motion.
Okay.
really clear. What will it take to get an enforceable TDMP on this property?
I guess I would look to Mr. Wittenberg to help answer that question.
Sorry, I was discussing parliamentary procedure with the president.
You're excused. What would it take to get an enforceable TDMP on this property?
Well, I would say reasonable, tangible conditions of approval. However, tying a TDMP to an application for a covered walkway, porch, et cetera, there's a pretty loose sort of relationship or nexus there. So I'm not sure any of us are excited about the idea of another big expansion coming forward, but that would be the most likely triggering event for a new application. However, it is intended that the TDM, that as it exists currently, will be audited in the not too distant future.
Okay, so it's very difficult, if not legally questionable, to tie a TDMP to this current application.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lukey-Peter.
I just had a follow-up question to that because I think one of the questions that is yet to be determined is what the actual use of this porch is for. So, I mean, on one hand, it could be perceived as an expansion of a non-conforming use. And if it was, is that not grounds for a TDMP? Because it seems to me as though if people are seeing people gather already, it isn't being used as a mere covered walkway or for deliveries. It's being used as a place of gathering and perhaps expansion overflow of an existing business. So if that was the case, is that or is that not, or is it a certain square footage threshold they have to cross?
It certainly doesn't meet an ordinance threshold for triggering a TDM plan. And just the scale of the project of covering a walkway would not typically rise to the level of
Outdoor eating or patio or expansion of sales, though, would not?
That would not typically trigger a TDM plan.
All right, so I should restate the motion. We have a motion and a second to deny the expansion of nonconforming use. Commissioner Sweezy, I don't know if you want to speak to that anymore or cite any findings related to the 6 findings we need to make, or if anyone else has any comments. Nothing further. Okay, so we can vote on that. We have a motion and a second to deny the expansion of nonconforming use. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bender. Aye. Gagnon. Cronzer.
Aye.
Lukey-Peter.
Aye.
Magrino.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Not here.
Oh, sorry. Slack.
Aye.
Sweezy.
Aye.
Breland.
Aye.
7-0.
Okay, and that motion carries. Next, we also have the site plan review. May I have a motion on that? Site plan, I will add, relates to the expansion of a non-conforming use. Commissioner Slack.
Motion to deny staff recommendation for site plan review.
Right. We have a motion and a second to deny the site plan review application. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Bender.
Aye.
Cronzer.
Aye.
Lukey-Peter.
Aye.
Magrino.
Aye.
Slack.
Aye.
Sweezy.
Aye.
Breland.
Aye.
7-0.
And that motion carries. That concludes our discussion on item 6 and also concludes our meeting for today. We have committee of the whole this Thursday, and we are adjourned.